Why would a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, displacing over 100,000 tons with an escort fleet capable of destroying a mid-sized country, abnormally choose to detour around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa, while rushing to execute an emergency mission in the Middle East? Right now, the U.S. Navy's USS George H.W. Bush is sailing off the coast of Namibia in southern Africa. This should be the ultimate blade of American hegemony. Yet, under the eyes of the whole world, it made an extremely unusual, almost humiliating, strategic retreat. This is not just a change in course, it is a microcosm of the unprecedented tactical dilemma the U.S. Navy faces in the Middle East. On March 31st, when the USS George H.W. Bush set sail from Naval Station Norfolk in Virginia, its only goal was to rush to the Middle East. As the pinnacle of the Nimitz class, this moving sea fortress carries Carrier Air Wing 7. This includes F/A-18E F Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers, and E-2D Advanced Hawkeyes. The entire strike group has over 5,000 sailors. To escort this multi-billion-dollar giant, the U.S. military sent three main destroyers, the USS Donald Cook, the USS Mason, and the USS Ross, along with a fast combat support ship, the USNS Arctic. Before deployment, this strike group completed 1,586 high-intensity flight drills. Its combat power alone is enough to make any opponent tremble. Following normal logic, the fastest route from the U.S. East Coast to the Persian Gulf is across the Mediterranean Sea, through the Suez Canal, and into the Red Sea. However, on April 13th, two U.S. officials confirmed to USNI News that the carrier is detouring around the Cape of Good Hope. This change adds about 3,500 nautical miles to the journey and could delay reinforcements by about 6 days. This means the Bush won't reach the Middle East theater until late April at the earliest. In a race against time, a delay of nearly a week is extremely deadly. So why did the Pentagon make such a costly and time-consuming decision? Because the Red Sea has become a no-go zone for U.S. aircraft carriers. The USNI News report clearly pointed out that the Bush's detour was to avoid the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Since the USS Eisenhower crossed the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in December 2023, no U.S. carrier has dared to challenge this waterway for over 2 years. Under the threat of the Houthi militia, the Red Sea has changed from a U.S. military backyard to an A2AD testing ground. U.S. military assessments conclude that even with 3 Aegis destroyers escorting it, a 100,000-ton carrier's chance of survival drops sharply when facing a saturation attack in a narrow waterway less than 30 kilometers wide. The Houthis, once mocked as a sandal-wearing army, now possess the hardcore strength to make U.S. carriers take a detour. Over the past 2 years, the U.S. military has already experienced their power. For example, on June 4, 2024, U.S. Central Command confirmed that the Houthis fired 2 anti-ship ballistic missiles into the Red Sea within 24 hours. This kind of vertical strike poses a real threat to ships lacking defensive depth. The Houthis are no longer just a guerrilla group hiding in the mountains. They not only have ballistic missiles with a strike radius reaching the northern Red Sea, but also drone swarms capable of paralyzing Aegis systems. These Iranian-designed Shahed 136 suicide drones, costing only tens of thousands of dollars, are a nightmare for the U.S. military. Using interceptor missiles that cost millions of dollars each to shoot down cheap drones is not only a losing business, but also risks emptying the ammo depot. Photos revealed on March 29th showed the U.S. destroyer USS Carl Levin was urgently fitted with an unseen multi-tube launcher. This shows that traditional air defense systems are stretched thin, and the U.S. military has to urgently change equipment to cope. Besides aerial threats, there are remote-controlled explosive suicide boats on the water surface. These targets have extremely small radar signatures and are hard to spot in narrow, busy shipping lanes. The Houthi attacks are absolutely not a bluff. In July 2025, the Houthis sank 2 commercial ships in 48 hours, killing 4 crew members. A large number of global commercial cargo ships were forced to reroute around the Cape of Good Hope a long time ago. The tragedies of commercial ships made the U.S. military realize that in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is only 30 kilometers at its narrowest, a 100,000-ton nuclear carrier has absolutely no room to maneuver. it would only become a sitting duck for a shore-based firepower salvo. Therefore, an instrument of hegemony that should display absolute deterrence can only detour like a normal commercial ship. The US military is trading expensive mileage and time for the survival and safety of this multi-billion-dollar giant ship. While the USS Bush fights wind and waves off South Africa, the military posture in the Middle East has been stretched to the limit. Since the US military began blockading maritime traffic in and out of Iranian ports on Monday, over 15 warships have been deployed in the region. This includes 1 aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, and 11 destroyers: Bainbridge, Hudner, Peterson, Black, Finn, Murphy, Mitcher, Pinckney, Peralta, Spruance, and Melius. Additionally, there are the USS Tripoli, USS New Orleans, and USS Rushmore. Although the exact locations of all warships are currently unknown, US officials confirmed that no US warships are deployed inside the Persian Gulf. Why do US warships not dare to enter the Persian Gulf? Because the game in the Strait of Hormuz is all extremely deadly. Just the day before the US military announced a total blockade, 2 US guided missile destroyers, the USS Frank E. Peterson and USS Michael Murphy, tried to enter the Persian Gulf to create conditions for minesweeping. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard quickly locked on to them. Under drone surveillance and the deterrence of shore-based anti-ship missiles, the US warships were forced to retreat immediately. An Iranian military spokesman directly warned that if the blockade continues, no port will be safe in the Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea. The deterrence of anti-ship missile sites on the ground is far more terrifying than the wind and waves at sea. Under this tense situation, the US military's 3-carrier containment plan is facing its most severe scheduling crisis since the end of the Cold War. The Pentagon originally envisioned a giant steel net spanning from the eastern Mediterranean across the Arabian Sea to the entrance of the Persian Gulf. The USS Ford, which has been continuously deployed in the eastern Mediterranean for over 280 days and might break the 11-month deployment record, was supposed to form a pincer movement with the USS Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. The addition of the USS Bush was supposed to be the final straw that breaks the camel's back. However, reality struck the US military hard. The USS Ford suffered a mysterious fire during a Red Sea mission in early March and went to Crete for emergency repairs. Its combat power has not fully recovered, and it is currently operating in the eastern Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the 6-day voyage deficit caused by the USS Bush detouring around the Cape of Good Hope created an extremely dangerous window of vulnerability for US deterrence in the Middle East. At the same time, facing the maritime blockade imposed by the US military, Saudi officials urgently spoke out. They strongly urged Washington to immediately lift the blockade on Iran and return to the negotiation table. Riyadh is worried that Iran might retaliate by blockading the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. That's a critical choke point in the Red Sea, and it's vital for Saudi Arabia's remaining oil exports. Saudi officials have informed the US that the situation is incredibly unstable. If Washington applies more pressure on Tehran, the Houthis might get even more aggressive and could even start charging fees to passing ships. What embarrasses the Pentagon even more is that America's carefully built blockade coalition is receiving a cold shoulder. Although Washington repeatedly asked NATO allies to share the pressure in the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, the response from major European powers was extremely cold. The British Prime Minister clearly stated he does not support the blockade and is unwilling to be dragged into a prolonged war of attrition. French President Macron directly announced that he will organize an independent meeting on the safety of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz with the UK. He emphasized that their actions will be strictly defensive and refused to join the US offensive sequence. Spain and Germany directly rejected the US request to participate. Europe's collective retreat makes America's blockade operation in the Strait of Hormuz look more like a lonely gamble, and the USS Bush's African detour marks a milestone where US global military hegemony encounters an asymmetric challenge. The adversary does not need to actually sink a US aircraft carrier. They just need to make the cost and risk of the carrier crossing the strait totally unbearable. The Houthis did exactly this. Using cheap drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles, they forcibly changed the naval deployment route of a superpower. When a multi-billion-dollar nuclear-powered giant is forced to bow its head and detour for tens of thousands of dollars of drones and a militia, does this mean the golden age of American naval invincibility has ended? Or is this merely tactical forbearance before the storm, allowing the U.S. military to gather even more devastating power?